In today's video, I'm going to share with you my entire journey from beginning until today of how I became good with women, how I went from being a guy who had no options and who had no agency over how he met women and connected with girls and brought them into his life, to being a guy who has complete and total freedom over how he connects with women. And eventually I found an amazing, beautiful, high quality partner that I'm spending my life with, right? So I'm going to explain to you this entire journey. And I think there's a lot of lessons that you can learn by being a part of this training. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how you can grow in dating as well. And no matter where you're at in your journey, whether you're a beginner, like just getting started, like learning how to meet women, working on the basic versions of communication skills, or you're a little more advanced. So you have some options. You've been out there, you've dated a couple girls, but there's nothing consistent really, and you don't have the exact quality you want. This training is going to be helpful for you. And I'm going to go into extreme detail on my entire story, complete with videos and pictures and all that stuff. I want to explain this to you to give you some context. Like only 9 years ago, I was literally doing fucking magic tricks to try to meet and date girls. And it was very unsuccessful, of course. But I wanted to be clear with you, that's the place that I was in, because a lot of guys have only known me as the guy who was meeting girls. I even had a client who we were doing our live session on Sunday, a group session, and he asked me, he was like, Tim, I know it's easy for you to be sexual with girls, but for us guys, and I stopped him. I was like, hold on a second, bro. It's not easy for me to be sexual with girls. Now it is, but he made it sound like it was naturally something that I do. Like I'm just the guy who's sexual, right? But it took me years to learn this. So just 9 years ago, and I literally mean just 9 years ago, this is when I was 19. I'm 28 now. When I was 19, I was literally doing magic tricks to try and meet girls. And I was always the funny guy in every circle that I was in, whether it was university or high school. I was always the funny guy, and I had no results with women at all. I literally had no dates. I had no options, nothing. I got flaked on almost every date I tried to set up. In fact, I would literally have girls. I remember there was this girl that I was really into in university, and I asked her out. She was in my creative writing class, in my honors class in college, and I asked her out, and she kind of was like no and yes at the same time, because she was like, I'm down to hang out as a friend, and she invited another guy and that guy's girlfriend to go out with us. So it was like a group thing, and I was like, no, this is not what I wanted. Her and I are still connected today, but we're not, like close at all. But it was really funny. That's the extent of my dating life and how I was meeting girls back then. What's really crazy? Here's another crazy one. I lost this girl that I started going out with to a classmate of mine. There was a girl that I started seeing, actually. We were kind of dating a bit. We didn't sleep together, but we'd get a bit close and things like that for maybe about a month and a half. And then I introduced her to this classmate of mine. We all hung out at their apartment for some reason. Someone I knew was there, and this person was also there, and she started dating him. They're actually married now, and I'm very happy for them, but she's not like my type. But back then she was like all I could think about. So yeah, that was my dating life. That was how I met girls. Like that was what Tim was going through. Everything that I would do was either luck or a shot in the dark. It was all just like I wouldn't go on any dates. I had no dates, but whenever I would talk to girls, I was relying on luck, or I was relying on a shot in the dark. But I'm going to tell you how I changed all of this and how I built my dream dating life in 4 phases. So what we're going to do is go very detailed here. We're not just going to start there, because most of the men that I work with are not at the level I was at when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Most of the men that I work with are at a more advanced level where they've had a bunch of relationships. They have girls liking them, but they want to have consistency and control over how they date and not go into those patterns where there's no control, where it's just randomness. So we're going to go into the more advanced parts of my dating journey as well. We're going to go through the whole thing. So this video, as the time of shooting it, I don't know how long it's going to be, but you can see down below the bar, it's probably a bit of a hefty video because we're going to go quite deep here. I'm going to tell you how I changed this and built my dream dating life in 4 phases specifically. And not just that, I'm going to give you a very specific step that good character, high-performing professional guys oftentimes skip. They skip this step, and it stops them from actually meeting attractive women and getting their dream dating results, and eventually finding an amazing partner. So if you don't skip this step that I'm going to share with you in this training, especially as we get to the end, so make sure you watch for that. That's one of the most important steps towards the end. If you don't skip this step, everything becomes significantly easier for you in dating, and you'll actually become an extremely attractive man that women want to naturally spend time with. So that is this training that we're going to get into. I want to say this to you. If at any point in this training you're like, damn, Tim, this is some really good shit that I'm not finding anywhere else on YouTube, there's 2 things you can do. You know what I'm going to say, because if you watched my other training, you've probably done this already, but I'm sending it to you as a reminder, or if you're watching this for the first time, watching me for the first time, give it a like and give it a subscribe. Press the little like button, because that just boosts the algorithm, more people can see this, and then subscribe so that you can opt in to literally be notified and see my fucking face pop up in your feed whenever you decide to scroll YouTube and get some information on self-development, dating skills, communication skills, and leadership, okay? And we'll go from there, and you're going to fucking grow with me. We're going to learn together. It's fucking free. Just takes a moment of your time. Let's go ahead and get into this. So I want to start with phase number 1, and I think we're going to use some whiteboard here. I want to start with phase number 1. This was where I was at in 2012 and 2014. Phase number 1, right here. Phase 1, unconscious competence. We'll just write UC. Phase number 1 was unconscious competence, and I was here from around 2012 to 2014. Okay, and this is where many men start their dating journey. Not everyone, but a lot of guys start this based on childhood. You know, how your parents related to you when you were younger, and how they worked with you in terms of communication skills, things like that. Now, what's interesting is I was always a very good communicator. I never had an issue communicating and getting my thoughts across, but I wasn't very assertive, right? So I was good at communicating. I was good at leading in certain situations, but when it came to dating, because I grew up in a very religious household and my parents emphasized God over everything, and sex was shamed a lot of times. It wasn't like sex doesn't exist in my household. Like they weren't telling us like this is not a thing to ever speak about. But as an example, if a couple was kissing on television or on like a movie, my sister and my parents would be like, turn around, don't look at it, right? That was the energy, right?
When you grab a woman's breast and you feel it, and it feels like a bag of sand when you're touching it.
Bag of sand?
You know what I mean. Why don't we just play? Why don't you just deal the cards?
So because I grew up with that, there was a wall built from me around sex and around women. It was always kind of like, just don't do that thing until you're getting married. Don't think about it. Don't mess with it or anything like that until you're married, which I understand to some parents that may be helpful, but for me, it ended up turning me into someone who was very curious about it and ended up pursuing it later in life because it was absent from me. I had no tools when it came to women. So socially, I could communicate. I was really funny. I was very socially aware, all that I had. But when it came to the arena of women, I was very incompetent with how to connect with them and how to meet them. And my mindset, the place I was in at unconscious incompetence was, I don't know why I don't have results and I can't get any. This is unconscious incompetence. So you don't know what's happening, right? You're not aware, but you're also incompetent at the same time. Those two things are a very bad combination, unless you're on the opposite side, which is the last step, which we'll get into at the end of the training, which is really powerful. And the solution to this is when I first found what we call the dating community. I found a lot of these companies, some of them you know, like RSD, Simple Pickup. I found these guys online. I did a Google search on how I could meet girls. I was like, how can I get a girl to like me? And I found these companies. I found these guys that were teaching dating, and I went into these forums and I joined these groups, and I started going out to the city and approaching girls. I was still living at home at the time, but I started, because we lived in New Jersey, but I started leaving my parents' house during my university time, and I started going out to Manhattan, which was about like a half an hour train ride away, 45 minutes, and I started going out and approaching girls. And from 2012 to 2014, I became so obsessed with approaching women, I literally failed out of school because of it. I'm not kidding. Like, I started going to university at I believe the end of 2011 or beginning of 2012. Started going to college then, and then, or I think it was, 2012. And I literally had failed out of school by 2015 because I wasn't going to classes, I wasn't going to finals, I wasn't doing anything. I was very good in school academically, but then I just stopped doing it because all I would want to do was go and approach girls. So similar to how an athlete invest all their time in their skill, I was treating dating this way. Now, I think that's really unhealthy for most men to do, and you shouldn't do this. But there also is a reason why I teach this, and people pay me thousands of dollars to consult for them and their dating skills and their relationships and communication skills. And the roots of that is because I have the experience of hundreds or thousands actually of hours of approaching women, and that foundation started in 2012 and 2014, between those 2 years, so about 3 years, 2012, 2013, 2014. And I went out and took a massive amount of action. Now, the reason why this solution was so powerful and why it was so good is because what it did is it gave me a data set to work with to increase my processing of information. So here's what happens when you're in a stage of unconscious incompetence. So which means you suck at doing something, you suck at success with women, you suck at business, you suck at whatever it is that you're not good at, sales, right? Whatever it is. What happens is you don't have enough information to be clear on what you need to work on. And every client that I work with at the beginning, there's some element of this present. So even if they're better with women, there's still an element of unconscious incompetence with what they want to work on. As an example, I have some clients who come to me who have been in a few relationships, but they want to work on social circle or have threesomes, because that's a thing that I very much love teaching, how you can bring women together and you have a partner and have her meet girls with you, or bring girls you don't know together, right? So I'll tell them this. What happens is they don't know why things aren't working for them, and they're not even aware of how to change those things. So the first step is always, what are the actions we need to take to get a bigger data set for you to work with and gain clarity and gain ability to process information and make decisions from there. Because what was happening with me is, because I had no information at the beginning, I was in a stage of what? I actually wrote UC here on the board, which was stupid. Incompetence, right? UI. So in a stage of unconscious incompetence, you don't know anything about anything. So what you need to do is take action to get a bigger data set to start to gather information about the world. Okay, so I started taking massive action and I started gathering this big data set. My results around this time were nothing. I wasn't even getting laid. Like I maybe had a girl here and there that I'd hook up with. You know, I started seeing this girl as well that I met from the street during the day. I was going on a lot of dates from instant dates during the day. I'd go and approach a girl in the street and I'd say hi to her. But like the amount of action I was taking was crazy. I was going out in blizzards taking action. I was going out all the time and approaching girls, and it gave me this massive data set so that the way that I interacted with the world changed, and I began to see patterns and see things that I didn't have before. So after this phase, I moved into a second phase, which is what we'd call conscious incompetence. So this was phase number 2. Phase 2 was conscious incompetence, and this happened between 2014 and 2015. Now, this was really interesting, and this was where I started getting better with girls. So 2012 to 2014, I wasn't getting better with girls. I was at a baseline of what I could do, right? And what I could do was go out and interact with girls and have good interactions that were okay, because I was social. So I wasn't a guy who couldn't talk to people. I knew how to talk to people. I had massive approach anxiety. I was like scared to go for it, but I did. And my results matched who I was as a person. So I'd have a lot of laughs, a lot of funny interactions. I could go on an instant date, but girls would flake on me, they would cancel. But then what happened was I shifted into conscious incompetence because of this big data set I was working with. And what this phase was, is I know how to get results, but I haven't seen them yet. Right? So I know what it takes. Like I tasted a little bit of the results. I maybe had a date here and there. I had a random hookup here and there, but it wasn't like anything at all that was consistent. Nothing consistent. I'm talking about like maybe one every 3 months, something like that, literally. But I know how to get results. I just haven't seen the results yet. Okay. What was the solution in this phase? What did I do to change this? The solution was getting mentors. And this is where my life changed. And literally my journey, you could actually plot it on a graph with how good I became at meeting women. It started off kind of just like this, where it was like, taking action. And then it's flattened here and it would go up a little bit. And then when I got mentors, it bumped up and just skyrocketed. This was the big thing that changed everything for me. It was the getting mentors part. But I'll explain this. So in this phase of conscious incompetence, which was 2014 and 2015, what I did is I started to get mentors. I started to surround myself with experts who were better than me. One thing that was really significant during this time is I left my parents' house. So I moved out in 2015. I got kicked out, and not in a bad way. Me and my family are very close still, but I got put out because they were like, you can't be doing this shit while living in our good Christian home, which I get. And I started surrounding myself with mentors. So what I did is there was a mentor of mine who wasn't a mentor at the time, but this guy who was in New York. I was in all these forums and all these pickup groups on Facebook. And this guy who was in New York was from Sweden. His name was Pierre, and he was starting this dating company. And he was just going around meeting guys in New York, and he was in all the RSD inner circles, kind of filtering out people and offering coaching for a cheaper price, which is a really smart business idea when you're starting out, right? So I started going to his meetups when I left my parents' house in 2015. And I also had a mentor before then as well, another guy from one of the forums while I was still with my parents. He was my mentor. while I was still living at home. He was my mentor as well, taught me a lot of stuff about daytime approaching and about women. Me and my first wingman, Darren, this guy, his name was Dave, he taught us a lot. But 2015, left my parents' house and I started going to these guys' meetups, to Pierre's meetups. And I started helping the guys at the meetups with talking to girls, not because I was so good, but I was just so passionate, right? And I had more experience because of those 3 years, that 2012 to 2015, I had put in so much work approaching girls. It was like nothing to me to just talk to a girl and create a good interaction. But I still wasn't good with chicks, good with women, but I was good at taking action, right? And a lot of guys weren't good at that. And they were just like, who's this kid who's going around talking to everybody like it's nothing? So I started helping them. Pierre noticed that. We started working together and I started helping him get clients. I started coaching with him as well. Even though I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, I was better than most guys at just talking to girls at least and saying what's up. I didn't know how to create relationships and threesomes, all that shit. I had no idea it was coming soon, but I had no idea how to do that back then. But so that was the next part of my journey. So I got mentors and I got them by offering massive value. And then I also bought a few dating courses and things like that as well with the little bit of money I had coming in from my day job. But I wasn't doing this full time. I wasn't teaching full time. I wasn't a men's coach. Nothing like that. I was just helping out because I was so passionate about this. And I was like, fuck, I can't believe I'm doing this. So this was me surrounding myself with experts that were better than me. And because I had myself surrounded with these experts, what happens is the data set that I was getting by taking action started to make more sense because I had people who could read that data set better than I could, right? So I would say like, I'm going to go out and I'm meeting 3 girls this week, right? Let's pretend I go out on a weekend and I have dates with 3 different girls, let's say from Thursday to Sunday. And those dates don't work out. They don't go anywhere. What would happen is if I shared that story with my mentor and I were out in a club or a bar. At the time, I wasn't even 21. But if we were out like in the street doing some daytime approaches, my mentor, like Pierre, could see what I was doing, and I would take that data set and it would mean one thing to me, but it would mean something else to him because he had more experience than me. He had been through all these situations, and it wasn't just him. There was other guys in the dating community that were more mature than me, that were older than me, that were mentoring me, that were inputting into me because I was this kid who had this fire and this energy who wanted to just talk to every single girl I could, right? So my mentors, the experts, were able to interpret the data I was getting better than I could interpret it. And this is why I tell so many guys to get mentorship. I'm serious. And if you want to grow in this and you're like, hey, I should get a mentor to interpret the data set that I'm getting from my real world experience. If you're going on dates, you're talking to girls, you're putting yourself out there, you're in situations where you're connecting with women, but it's not the consistency you want. Shit happens and you don't really understand why it's happening. If that's what you're dealing with right now, what's the solution? Is to get someone who can read that data set better than you. And I'm telling you, if you literally have the capacity to invest in yourself right now, but you're sitting on the sidelines and you're not doing it, like do what you want. But that's really fucking sad because you could just cut your learning curve in half, literally by working with someone, whether it's me or not. I mean, you're watching my training, so I'm gonna tell you what I do, but you could cut everything in half by just investing with someone who's going to get your results. So what you can do if you want to begin that journey, check out the links below. I'll put even a little pop-up here on the screen below. There's this training I have below which explains my system for how I connect with women, and I give that system away to you. And at the end of the training, there's a little link where you can book a call with me, set up a call, and see if you'd be a good fit to join my consulting program, where I'm going to work with you directly and become your partner in helping you get results within literally 3 months. It's really powerful experience. You get my entire system as a part of this consulting process, and I work with you as your partner to interpret this data set that you're getting from your real world experience and help you make more sense of it to save you, I'm not kidding, years of time, years and money, to save you money and save you years of time. I've talked to a lot of guys who are like super down, who joined this consulting program, and guys who know it's a great idea, but they're on the fence because they're like, do I really need it? And then they come back to me after 3 years and shit's gone way worse for them and my prices are double. So check out the link, book a call, we'll talk and see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, no worries. But if it is, we'll get started on working together and we'll get you some results. The link to all this training and shit like that is below. Let's continue. So phase number 3, this was the next phase after I went through the mentor phase. That was 2014, 2015. And I still had mentors. I didn't stop having mentors after phase number 2, but things changed a little bit. I changed in how I interacted with women. So phase number 3, pop that out here. I know my handwriting is shit. Phase 3, conscious competence. All right, CC. That happened in 2016 to 2018. Okay, this was very interesting. This was probably the most fun I had with learning, actually. I mean, all of these phases were super fun, but this phase was, I think, the most transformative in terms of how much I grew. So after 2014, 2015, I leveled off a little bit because I started focusing on coaching. So after 2015, starting in 2016, I started coaching men full-time. I quit my jobs in 2016 because by that point I was very competent with women. I started meeting more girls. I was going on dates regularly. I was better than most of the guys in New York that I was going out with, like all of them. Pretty much all of them except for maybe one or two. So guys started asking me for help with this. Guys who weren't good, who were still in the dating community, who weren't getting the results they wanted. They wanted me to go out with them and meet girls and be their partner in that journey. So what I started doing is I started offering that, but I started getting paid for it. It's very small amounts of money, like ridiculously low amounts of money, but it was enough for me to support myself, have my small apartment, things like that. So because I started leveling off a little bit, because I was focused more on the teaching aspect of things, it wasn't that I wasn't getting results, but it was that the growth wasn't as fast as when it was just about me. So I had to figure something else out. So in conscious competence, one of the things that I started to learn and started to focus on was the solution of being versus doing. And most guys skip this. This is what most guys skip. Now, at conscious competence, the thought was, the place I was in mentally was, I know how to get results, but it still takes effort and hard work. That's what conscious competence is. It's like, I know how to get the result. I understand what it looks like. I'm getting the result too, but it still takes effort and hard work. So it's not just flowing easily. I'm putting in the work to do it. And around this time I released a course. It was called The Fuckboy Frame, which many of you who are my old listeners know this. I released a course called The Fuckboy Frame. And I didn't understand this concept of being versus doing at the time. Now I was learning it and I was getting there, right? But I released that course before I fully understood that. And the principles that I was all about in my dating life was putting in work. But what I did was I shifted around 2017 and 2018. I started shifting from just being the guy who does approaches and does pickup to being the guy who, again, being the guy, right? Who is the guy. I just started being the guy. So I became more attractive. I learned how to understand women on an identity level. And the solution, like I said, was being versus doing. And what changed for me was I started getting to know women extremely deeply, and I started pushing my experiences further. So as an example, a few things that I changed. I started dating higher quality women. I started seeing women that were more attractive. I started dating multiple women at one time, like in relationships with them. So I had a girl that I was dating in Bali. I had a girl that I was dating in New York. I had a girl that I was dating in Budapest. And that girl eventually became my partner, the girl I'm seeing now, my wife. So when I went through this journey, because I was spending so much time pushing experiences further in 2016 to 2018, more so the tail end, like 2017, 2018, because I was pushing my experiences further, I started experiencing more growth again. But by this point, I was getting to the upper limits of what I could do with like picking up girls. So it was more so who I was becoming. So everything started becoming more effortless, right? So if you could imagine the little scale, we don't have so much room on the whiteboard, but what it looked like was I started interacting with women with less effort, but the same or greater result. So I didn't have to do as much. So I'd go out to a club and I wouldn't talk to 10 girls, which I often would do in a night, 5 to 10 girls. Instead, I would talk to maybe 3. And I would be in my head at the same time. And I would still end up taking a girl home or setting up a really solid date. Or I'd go out and meet girls during the day. And instead of me meeting a girl and me interacting with like 10 girls during the day, getting a couple rejections, things like that, I begin to know intently which girls would be down to meet. And I begin to only speak to those girls. And I would do like 3 to 4 approaches, have a long little instant date with a girl, and set up a few solid dates, right? So because I was interacting with women this way and with this dynamic, everything became easier and dating became a part of my life instead of something that I had to try doing. This was being versus doing. And this is also what I teach my clients to get to very quickly. So I get my guys to skip from this step, which is unconscious incompetence. They skip from going from conscious incompetence right from here all the way to conscious competence. They skip very fast. Or if they're in conscious incompetence, they go here very fast. This took me, like, I'm not kidding, you can see the math, it took me about 5 years to get there. It took me literally 5 years or more, 5 to 6 years to get to this point. And that was with me having mentors. If I didn't have mentors, I'd be like some of the other guys back in New York that I know right now who are still stuck in a place of conscious incompetence. Like, seriously, I'm not kidding. I know guys like that. They want to do all of it themselves. They often don't have money to invest in any mentorship or any kind of consulting, and they never get results. I mean, they do get some results, but it's all like the pickup guy. You know, they're still out in the same bars, chasing the same kind of girls, things like that. They never switch to bringing girls together, dating multiple girls, and then having amazing relationships. They just can't do it, which is, it's fine, but it sucks. Then we have phase number 4, and this was the final phase that I went to, which is the phase I'm in now. And I think in this phase, there's a lot of just amazing experiences that can happen, and we'll write it down here. We're running out of room, but it's phase 4, unconscious competence. And this was my phase from about 2019 and onward. 2018 as well, but I'd specifically put it as 2019 and onward. In this phase, my mindset, which is now, comes down to I don't have to think to get results. I attract them effortlessly. And in this phase, this is where you grow as a person, and it's no longer about getting the girls. You still get the girls, right? Because you want the girls, but you're not confused on what to do or how to do it. So in this phase, you don't have to think about how to meet women. You just meet them automatically as a product of who you are as a man. And it's zero effort. And what happened was, for me, I started studying more spirituality during this time. This was where I focused more on who I want to be as a person. What's the archetype that I'm going to present myself as to the world? My business grew as well. We did our first time doing 6 figures after 2018 when I launched my course. And then in 2019, I focused more on my spiritual development. Then 2020 was more on business, and we had our first over 100K year. And then 2021, I focused a lot on business development and teaching other small business owners how to get started, small coaches how to get started. And then summer 22 this year in 2021, I also started coaching women, and I stopped that because it wasn't part of my path anymore. It wasn't my purpose, but I did about a year of that, coached a lot of different amazing women. And now I've been consulting only for men for the last couple months, and we've had some amazing results. So this was the journey for me in phase 4. It's integrating all aspects of my life into one complete picture. You know, I've got my partner, we meet women together. I've got this amazing support network, this amazing mastermind of a few very close friends, not a lot of friends, but a few close friends that I really trust and love and care about, that care about me as well. And now dating, and this whole thing becomes a complete picture. Now I'm building this big social circle. We're working on another company. There's all this stuff that just comes together when you're in phase number 4 in your dating life. And the same thing applies, I think, to business as well. You go through these phases too. But this was my journey. Like, this was the shit I was doing. Things have progressed from there. And every day that I live in this reality where I have this amazing partner, where I go out and meet girls, where I travel, meet women, where I have people who pay me thousands of dollars to help them go through this journey faster and save time and money in years of heartbreak and failure and problems and all this stuff. Like, when I do this, I just feel gratitude, because I can't believe going from that kid who wanted to hook up with his classmate or even go on a date with her and couldn't make that happen because he didn't know how to communicate, that I'm in this position where thousands, literally thousands on YouTube of men watch my stuff and learn from me how to do this and how to create amazing relationships. And how to attract women naturally. This was my journey, and I'm very grateful for every single day that I can be on this journey, and every single day that I can share this journey with you. Hopefully it inspires you and it motivates you, but these are the phases. It's very simple. It's not actually complex, but you do have to go through these phases in your journey to get to where you want to be. And ultimately, I think the best place to be for having healthy relationships is a place of unconscious competence, where you don't have to think about how to attract women. You don't have to think about who to be or what to do. It's just you. It's just a part of who you are as a man, as a person, okay? I'm going to end everything there. Again, if you're serious about growing in this and you're like, hey, instead of me doing this on my own and spending years and years and effort with relationships that don't work out, with girls that don't take me seriously, with dating situations where I'm trying and putting in effort but it's not working out, if that's not for you and you're someone who wants real results, be my partner. Let's partner together. Let me be your consultant and bring you through these levels effortlessly. I mean, effortlessly as in, it's not going to be complicated. It's going to take work. It's going to take you putting in the time, but it's going to happen so much faster than it would if you just did it alone. And we're going to give you all the systems. I'm going to give you the processes to have women naturally be attracted to you, naturally want to invest in you, and all that fucking jazz, okay? If this sounds like if something that you want, the links are below to get started with me. You can either book a call from directly below or watch the training, and then if you think it's a good fit, book a call, and we'll go from there, okay, my friend? Thank you for giving me your time in this video, in this training. I appreciate it. I hope that you learned something. I hope that my journey spoke to you, and again, I'm just eternally filled with gratitude for this journey I'm on and for being able to share it with you. Stay blessed, and I'll see you on our next training.